The identity of Alexandria, the cosmopolitan city, has been shaped meticulously over time. Founded in 332 BC by Alexander the Great, on an existing Egyptian village named Rhodotis, it grew to form the city of Alexandria that was considered the center of Hellenistic civilization and a capital for culture and knowledge. Alexandria encompassed outstanding Hellenic planning and architecture like the Pharos Lighthouse, which is considered as one of the seven wonders of the ancient world, and the Great Library of Alexandria, which made Alexandria a home for researchers and intellectuals. Connected to the Mediterranean culture, being an important center for early Christianity, a trade center and the main destination for people from all over the world made Alexandria a cosmopolitan city. After the rule of Muhammad Ali, Alexandria had significantly thrived and became an economic and cultural center, especially during the 19th and the early of the 20th century, which was mainly an attraction for Europeans and residents of the Mediterranean basin. The cosmopolitan identity of Alexandria had affected its life aspects, especially arts, cultural practices, and architecture. The Corniche of Alexandria has always constituted a huge part of the Alexandrian identity and the behavior of its residents. A long promenade connecting all Alexandrian neighborhood from the east to the west. The city was a home for all forms of art. There were plenty of shows for all great ballet troupes, international opera, famous singers such as Edith Piaf and Malraux. Also, going to the cinema was a very important event where women used to wear their most fancy jewelry and dresses. Alexandria was filled with restaurants, eateries and patisseries serving a cosmopolitan cuisine: Greek, French, Italian, Turkish and local cuisine. Recipes and meals were exchanged, and dinner tables were always shared. During Muhammad Ali's reign, Alexandria flourished as a commercial city. It was the center of trade and commercial activity. An industrial and commercial district was established near the West Port, Menai el Bassel district. It consisted of La Bourse de Menai el Bassel, headquarters of international companies, and large warehouses for cotton and seed storage. The city embraced many religions and beliefs. Each and every community built their house of worship, whether a synagogue, a church or a mosque, hospitals, and schools. It is to say that during that time, over a dozen of communities lived in Alexandria. The homogeneous mixture of culture has without doubt affected architecture in Alexandria. The cosmopolitan architecture of Alexandria at that time was a combination of European, Mediterranean, Oriental and local architecture. For each and every cultural aspect and practice, various buildings with different mix of architectural styles were built. In the city center, European architecture mixed with Oriental and Islamic architecture was seen in residential apartment buildings and hotels overlooking the Corniche. For instance, Cecil Hotel, with the classical and Moorish style, which was considered as the best hotel in Alexandria that used to house many fancy parties and balls, but also conferences like those held by Churchill and de Gaulle. The city extended to the east to what was known as the New European Town, where people, almost exclusively foreigners, were seeking to build mansions and garden villas away from the city center that was considered as the commercial and financial center. In 1863, a railway that was converted into an electric tram was built to connect the city center to the east side. The tram stations' names reflected the cultural diversity in which the expanded city witnessed. As the city was a capital of arts, opera houses, theaters, cinemas and casinos used to fill the cosmopolitan city. Theater Muhammad Ali, currently Opera Said Darwish, housed international performances presented by various artists like Anna Pavlova, the great dancer. Also, Zizania Theater, where Sarah Bernhardt, the French actress, performed. Alexandria was full of cinemas: Metro, Royal, Strand, Amir, Rialto. The movie theaters provided a unique experience to the people. It was a magnificent place and tickets used to be booked ahead as the seats were limited. And, for entertainment, people used to frequent casinos like San Stefano, where there was matinees and concerts, and El Chatbi Casino that used to host famous local artists like the singer Abdul Halim Hafez and actor Ismail Yassin, who used to perform monologues on a regular basis. The city was full of hospitals and schools built by the different troops that lived in Alexandria. There were French, Greek, English and Italian schools and hospitals, as well as Christian and Jewish. For instance, schools like Victoria College, Notre Dame de Sion, Lycée Français, College Saint Marc, the Swiss School, Sacred Heart and Littorio School. World War II and political instability were the main reasons of the departure of those holding other nationalities and took Alexandria as their second home. Gradually, the city started to lose its cosmopolitan identity, leaving some physical traces from the past and a memory in the heart of those who once were here. The city of Alexandria has changed radically since the cosmopolitan era. The cultural practices and the practitioners no longer exist, therefore the spirit, the architectural heritage and the identity faded. The buildings that once witnessed one of the greatest times of this city are now neglected, abandoned, misused or demolished. Only a few buildings were saved and maintained or have been subjected to a convenient adaptive reuse. The Corniche, which constitutes a main part of the Alexandrian identity, once had a promenade and beaches that served the residents of the city. Now, the Corniche seems far away, separated from the city by a highway. Also, few beaches were left for the people to enjoy. And the rest of the shore is covered by massive cement blocks where trash lies in between. The city was once full of green open spaces and public gardens where people used to sit and enjoy the sea breeze. Gardens used to be in the middle of the city. Also, some private gardens were attached to villas or even schools. Now, green surfaces and public gardens are hard to find. Some gardens were removed, and others are surrounded with fences. With the idea of public open spaces vanishing slowly, the social activities associated with it are vanishing as well. Cosmopolitan Alexandria was once filled with casinos and a magnificent nightlife. Many of these entertainment centers were demolished or left neglected till the day they die. For example, San Stefano Hotel and Casino has been demolished and replaced by a 28-story building also known by San Stefano. Several buildings and villas from the cosmopolitan time were demolished, either for being structurally unstable and too dangerous to be inhabited or used, or because of its strategic location where another type of building could be more profitable. Others were subjected to an inconvenient adaptive reuse. For instance, Maslow Villa, which is now known as the Faculty of Fine Arts. Despite that art-related activity would be a perfect match for this outstanding structure, but the big number of students using the building is causing the slow deterioration for the interior, which was made for a domestic use. Several good examples in adaptive reuse of cosmopolitan heritage still stand still in each and every corner of the city. For instance, the Jewelry Museum, which was once the royal residence of the Princess Fatima Al-Zahra, the nephew of Khedive Ismail, and now home for one of the most outstanding royal jewelry collections. Also, Rollo Villa, which is today Goethe Institute. The villa exterior neo-Gothic style and wooden interior finishing stands as a good example of a convenient adaptive reuse and architectural heritage renovation and maintenance. The cosmopolitan identity of Alexandria constitutes a huge part of the character of the city and its people. The negligence of the cosmopolitan architecture and the attempts to erase it is putting end not only to the tangible cosmopolitan features but also to the intangible practices associated with it. But it is not too late to save the cosmopolitan city. The cultural diversity and the practices related to it could be brought back to life by the local cultural centers like the Biblioteca Alexandrina, Opera Sed Darwish, and Horea Center for Creativity. Also, international cultural centers in Alexandria could help in spreading the cultural knowledge about their communities during their life in cosmopolitan Alexandria. The buildings, the streets, the public spaces, the cultural, architectural and social heritage and practices related to the cosmopolitan identity deserve to be revived.